And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is My Two Cents, and welcome back to the Knicks in the Patrons Hangout streams. I unfortunately don't think I got one in for July this last time around. Been pretty busy, but I always like to host as many of these as I can. Just say thank you to all the amazing people who continue to support my channel. Joined by two of our regulars here, Pipsqueak and Mikhail the Stray Cat. And we'll see if anybody else shows up. But for the next hour, we're just going to chat about whatever. And interestingly enough, we've got zero, and it says right now we have 0 live viewers, but that could be lagging, or heck, people just aren't interested today. In any case, we will hang out. We will continue to hang out for the next hour. So, oh wait, there we go. There's back alley.
We got 2 people in the chat, so clearly 0 is wrong.
Clearly 0 is wrong. There's back alley philosophy. There's JC Armitage. Hello.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sad kitty. Meh.
Sometimes the thing lags, so it's probably seldom is it ever actually accurate. But anyways, we're discuss whatever you'd like. Can be serious, can be stupid, can be whatever. That's what these things are for y'all. So, Mikhail, if you want to go ahead and get started, I know you had something you wanted to discuss.
Well, all I was pointing out is that apparently, and I found out about this through Styx Hexenhammer 666, Styx, and I know that you and some other people that you've got your disagreements with the guy. Don't get me wrong, I do too. But he did point out something pretty interesting here this morning. That apparently at the top of the so-called short list of crazy, creepy, slappy, slimy Joe Biden's VP list might very well be a Madam Karen Bass. And I had to do a little bit of digging, but Stick seems to have his fingers on the pulse when he said that this would be an abject disaster for him. So I'm curious to know if anyone else had heard about that. So go for it.
Okay, well, I do have my disagreements with Styx, although I do like his content. I watch a lot of the stuff he puts out regularly, and I think he definitely has a lot of good opinions on many things. Taking a look here, I just did a quick Google search, and the New York Times has an article called "Lobbying Intensifies Among VP Candidates as Biden's Search Nears an End." 2 women, Representative Karen Bass and Susan Rice, the former National Security Advisor, among the most formidable contenders on Joe Biden's list. Well, I gotta say, I've never particularly liked any of the women that have been on Biden's list, but Biden has basically locked himself into he's forbid himself from a number of candidates since he said from the start he's going to pick a woman, and ever since the whole Black Lives Matter thing popped off, a number of those women, to include what's her name, Stacey Abrams, the former gubernatorial candidate from Georgia, who is still claiming she actually won the Georgia election, just were it not for voter suppression, have basically come out and said that if he doesn't pick a woman of color, then he's betraying the Democratic Party. So pretty much he has to pick a woman, and he has to pick a woman of color. Although none of the candidates he's floated are particularly noteworthy. Although what's interesting is at this point, something like isn't it like at least 50% of the American people, when polled, said that they believe Joe Biden is in the early stages of dementia, and therefore a vote for Joe Biden is essentially a vote for his VP, since within his first term he'll probably have to step down for medical reasons.
Yeah, all I was getting at is that this seems like, albeit it hasn't been officialized yet, obviously, or anything like that, but this seems like, to me, not really the route that he would want to go. But then again, he kind of boxed himself into a, political corner, given the identity politics BS that's been going on for a while.
Back alley philosophy says, I don't like any of the women. 2 Jim Crow for women sense.
Hey, I agree.
Well, then again, I mean, it's not like I'd like who he'd pick as far as the men go, anyways. But I mean, if you look at some of these women he's floated, and again, I don't claim to be an expert. It honestly doesn't interest me, so I haven't taken the time to really dig into their histories or anything. But I know when the Washington Post endorsed Stacey Abrams, I looked into her a little bit, and her only her notable contribution to society is she's written about 4 or 5 best-selling romance novels. So yeah, totally someone who's qualified to be vice president of the United States.
Hey, good for her in the literature sense, not so much in the political realm. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a goofy stray cat.
I'd say anyone who's not a career politician is more qualified than anybody else.
Well, can't disagree there.
It's just me.
Anyone who is a career politician should already have a record of being able to prove they won't be able to get anything done. Anyone who gets elected won't be able to anyways, but hey, such was the case with Donald Trump. At least he didn't have a long, sordid political record.
This is true.
On that note, anybody watch the Netflix series Space Force?
Wait a minute. Is that the series with oh Jesus, what's his name?
Starring Steve Carell as a general,
yes,
it's essentially making fun of the novelty that is the United States Space Force. But I watched some of it last night, and there's the scene where he's in a panel before Congress, talking to all these fictional politicians, but all of them are clearly based on real politicians. For example, the Speaker of the House sounds and acts very much like Pelosi. They had a Latina woman playing a young congresswoman from New York, who very clearly was supposed to be AOC. It was all quite laughable.
I can't.
It sounds like it has a "this is going to age well" vibe.
Oh, sorry.
This is going to what vibe?
I was just saying it's like this sound. I've not seen it, but it sounds very much like a "this is going to age well" vibe, and by well I mean not at all.
Yes. Well said, Pipsqueak.
On that note, what else is going on in the world? I did see this morning that Bill Clinton as a pedo is trending on Twitter, and so far it appears that it has not yet been struck by the Twitter police. Of course, that all has to do with the ongoing investigation into Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend / assistant pimp, I guess.
You're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah, Ghislaine, is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was Ghislaine.
I don't know how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I don't either. All I know is her whole thing was, so the FBI finally arrested her. She was living in a very wealthy estate somewhere in New England. The estate is owned by an anonymous LLC. She claimed she doesn't know who owns it. They just let her live there. Although the entire estate was being protected by former members of the British military who were running all her errands for her. Which, of course, is interesting given her strong ties to the royal family. In court, she stated she has never held a job and has no sources of income, yet she has multiple bank accounts, which range between $500,000 and $20 million in each of them.
Yeah. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, and I'm going to say it again, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me for it, and I don't care. Just like Epstein, Maxwell did not kill herself, because that's what's going to happen. She's going to get Arkancided.
Well, I would disagree. I would say this. She could, for example, seeing as she has the backing of the royal family and a number of other important people, there is the possibility her lawyers could find a way to get her off. But yes, otherwise she did not kill herself. Either they'll successfully get her off or she'll mysteriously die before the trial.
I very much agree, sir. I'm just erring on the side of, I could call it caution, or I could call it past experience.
Sam Frisk asks, is it good laughable or bad laughable? Were you referring to Space Force? If you're referring to Space Force, which we were previously talking about, I'd say it's somewhere in between.
Honestly, if it's referring to Space Force, I'd say it's kind of sad, if anything.
Scorch, hello.
Hey, Scorch, what's up?
Well, moving on from that, let's see what else is trending on Twitter right now. Florida company, hang on, this looks interesting. Sent 1000, hello.
What's
Maxim
up,
Magazine tweeted out an article called "Florida Company Wants to Fly People to Space in Hot Air Balloons. Get ready to join the 19-mile high club." This is interesting. It's got a picture of a hot air balloon floating above the planet's surface. It says it sounds like a pipe dream from the early 20th century, not the 2020s, taking a balloon into space. But if the plans pan out, Space Perspective will soon be floating wedding parties and office meetings up, and away in their beautiful balloons. The Florida-based travel startup will take passengers up to the very edge of space in a balloon they've dubbed Neptune. This space balloon carries a pressurized capsule with an 8-passenger capacity, which Space Perspective plans to launch from the Kennedy Space Center at NASA.
Okay. That's interesting.
JC Armitage says only Florida man could come up with something like that.
What's up, JC?
Now, admittedly, that does sound like a pretty cool party. It's getting your hot air balloon, fly to the edge of space, and throw a party while looking down at the Earth. I imagine it's probably pretty expensive, but that would be fun.
Oh, it'd be hilarious. It'd be a lot of laughs. It's just, I can't help but wonder what happens if something goes wrong with the balloon. Just saying. Just throwing it out there.
Well, you know what they say. If you're the kind of person to commonly make mistakes, then skydiving isn't for you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I have been skydiving once. It was a lot of fun.
Personally, I have never been skydiving, but I have been freehand, or in my case, free paw rock climbing a few times before. And yeah, there's a good amount of concern involved in that. Not gonna lie.
All right, so here's a tweet from Peter Schiff, who I do like a lot of the content he puts out, although I have my disagreements with him about cryptocurrencies. But Peter Schiff says this: how is TikTok knowing the fashion or music preferences of teenage girls, or which teenage girls, teenage boys think are hot, a national security threat? What will the Chinese do with this information other than sell it to American advertisers just like Facebook and Google do? Of course, he's referring to the fact that President Trump has talked about the possibility of banning the TikTok app in the United States, seeing as it's pretty much established at this point that TikTok is, it's known that TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, and de facto, since the Chinese government can demand that Chinese companies hand over any and all information they have, if you use TikTok, you effectively have your personal information in the hands of the Chinese government. Which is a scary thought, considering they're even more totalitarian than the United States. But on the other hand, he makes a valid point that it's unclear what exactly the Chinese government would do with most teenagers' personal information, aside from what tech giants already do. I don't know. Do either of you use TikTok?
Me? Use TikTok? Do you even know me?
No, I wouldn't say so. Just asking.
Yeah. One of my, I guess now I have to say 3 as opposed to previously 2 idiot humans. Only one of them uses TikTok. And my thought here, this actually goes to something that I heard about this morning. Who was it? Jesus Christ. Actually, I could be wrong, but I think it might have also been Styx. But the thing of it is that one, I've never had any interest in this stuff because what do you do with TikTok? You make like 15-second video clips. Okay, that's fine, but you know, it is at least partially owned by the Chicoms, the Chinese Communist Party, in some capacity, which kind of explains why Donald Trump, for love him or hate him, I don't care, why he might be against this. But even more to the point, what they're supposedly, I cannot confirm this, but what they're doing supposedly through this system is they're collecting all kinds of metadata, on all of their users, and I have no earthly idea what they're gonna do with like a 13-year-old girl's personal information. I really have no idea, because what are you gonna get out of that? Who cares? And it's not like our own government doesn't collect metadata like every waking minute of every day, no matter who it is or what they're doing. But I found it interesting that the ACLU apparently has gotten a little uppity about this, and I can't help but wonder, well, where were you guys when, I don't know, say Milo Yiannopoulos or Lauren Loomer or several others got deplatformed for simply having opinions and being outspoken about them, that apparently the mainstream, if there even is a mainstream anymore, didn't like. So that's my my take on this. I think that this is ridiculous one way or the other, whichever way you want to slice it.
Okay, well, I would say it's unconstitutional to ban the app, even if it is the case that it's controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, for being a Communist Party, the Chinese government basically has what I would call a fascist model going right now. Businesses are free to run independently and as a private company would, but at any time the government can march down, seize control, demand that they hand over data, and they better do it. So if you're doing business with a Chinese company, any Chinese company for that matter, you have to know that whatever information you give them could be taken by the Chinese government at a moment's notice. Now, personally, I have no desire to use TikTok, but yet it's another app that people have become, made into a career site. I know there was a news story about several women in Egypt, I guess, got arrested for posting stuff on TikTok. And of course, being a totalitarian government like the Muslim Brotherhood, that absolutely makes sense. But
fair enough.
Well, it really depends on which region of China you're talking about. Like most of the big cities that appear on most of the media coming out of China, it's definitely the case of you're allowed to run a private business so long as the government approves of what you're doing. But most of the regional areas are still very heavily communist, centrally planned run system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I said. At the end of the day, I think the whole thing is stupid. It's not going to accomplish anything. And more to the point, okay, when you look at, for want of a better way to put it, the double standard between the ACLU and, again, Milo, Laura, I could list a number of people, and when they got completely deplatformed versus this, it's like, okay, why are we doing any of this in the first place? I thought we believed in freedom of speech.
JC Armitage says, of all things Trump has made cool by threatening to ban, I really don't want TikTok to be one of them.
Hey, good call, JC. Good call.
Indeed. Nonetheless, I will not be. I didn't plan to use TikTok before this whole thing with the Chinese came out. I definitely won't be using it now, though. If anybody in the chat has anything they want to discuss as well, by all means, you can put it out there. Till then, I'll continue to scroll and see what I can find here. The NRA says retweet if you love guns. 20,800 retweets so far. Oh, and an ad to download TikTok.
Shit, they know. Shut it down.
Yeah, Siri's listening to me, and now it's putting out ads.
Sorry about that. I had to step away for just a second.
Oh, no problem. Sent1000 says, you know how to have the Democrats to do something, just say Trump is for or against it. You know, that is true, because at this point, whatever, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does, whatever he does, it will instantly become the worst decision ever, which is why I've said before, I really hope Trump comes out as a communist, because then, you know, within a second, every Democrat's going to be denouncing communism. Now, there's some reverse psychology for you, Mr. Trump. If you happen to be watching this, which I highly doubt, but hey, you never know, come out and publicly say communism is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, that that would be a great way to get the Democrats to out themselves, but that's just me. Pipsqueak? Anything?
No comment on that.
Oh, actually, I had a question for you, Pipsqueak. Since you're here, how are things going in Australia?
Depends on which coast you live on.
The reason I ask is because, you know, I don't know if this is actually a thing or if this is still going on, but I had heard, bearing leaps to mind, but I had heard that if you so much as try to go pitch a tent at the beach, you could face like what is it, like a $2,000 fine or something like that. Is that still going on?
It really depends on which coast you live on. Victoria and to some extent New South Wales, the governments there are really clamping down on restrictions and such. Like Victoria just went into what they're calling level 4, which is like, you know, you have to stay within 5 kilometers of your house. Only one person per day is allowed to go out for grocery shopping and all that. It's really fucking tyrannical.
Wow.
You know, no indication that kind of thing actually helps, of course, but since when has that stopped government programs? Meanwhile, where I live in South Australia, it's a little bit more because we had a couple of people come over from Victoria and they've caused a couple of in-state transmissions. So we've gone back up one level of lockdown, which is just dumb because we had 3 and they were already in quarantine by the time this was announced. So it's just...
Okay, JC Armitage asked a question I actually do have something to say about. Did you see the gameplay reveal of Halo Infinite? If so, what do you think about it? Yes, I did. I'm sure as many of you know, the 2 games I consistently play are Halo and Pokemon. And since I haven't obviously said much about Halo since we haven't had a new Halo game for a while, but 343 Studios released footage of gameplay for Halo Infinite, which is essentially Halo 6. And a ton of people are complaining if they say the graphics were really bad. Now, I'm not so worried about that because it's my personal experience that usually when they give you for most games, when they give you a first look at the graphics tend to not be as good because they're still working on it at the time that it comes out. I will say the thing I agree on and everybody is saying is that this the gameplay shows this new Halo ring they're on, and everything looks like it was built in Minecraft because the structures or whatever they are that the Master Chief is running through look exactly like Minecraft structures.
Not gonna lie, 2 cents. I now feel a little bit less bad about asking you, back in May, if it was old school Ash Ketchum and his mom, or newer generation Ash Ketchum and his mom. I now feel less bad about that.
Okay, wait a minute. You mean the animated Ash Ketchum's mom, the animated? You're saying the original animated series or the new one, or?
No, I'm referring to this was back in May, so this was a while ago. But I think it was the first stream of yours that I was in, and you had been looking through your Twitter feed and whatever, and you would come across a picture of Ash Ketchum's mom.
Oh yeah, I was on Mother's Day, and the official
Day.
Pokemon Twitter account tweeted out a picture of Ash Ketchum and his mom.
Yeah. I now feel less bad about saying that.
I mean, hey, I said we can talk about whatever on these streams. Doesn't have to be serious.
Oh no, I know that. No, it's kind of funny, to me at least. Like Pokemon is one of those games that you can play religiously by, what you just said. It's like, okay, cool. I get it now. This is actually pretty cool.
And then I think the other thing that a lot of the gaming YouTube channels I follow are talking about is Halo 5 ended with Cortana turning evil and essentially trying to take over the galaxy.
Wait, what?
But the preview for Halo Infinite, it's not clear that even has anything to do with the plot, because the Master Chief and this unidentified new character who's a pilot are going after a Covenant fraction called the Banished, which was a thing in Halo Wars 2. I've never actually played the Halo Wars games. They're kind of a spin-off strategy game as opposed to a traditional first-person shooter. But the plot of that had to do with the Banished, and the plot of Halo Infinite clearly has something to do with the Banished. And everyone was saying, "Well, what happened to Cortana? I thought she took over the universe," which she did. I mean, I don't know. I feel like 343 Studios has time to redeem themselves. It was really a short clip, and it seemed like a traditional Halo with some new weapons. So to answer your question, JC Armitage, what do I think about it? I wasn't particularly impressed, but I thought it was fine. I mean, for those who like Halo like I do, I don't think the new games are really about amazing new features or gameplay, because at this point, first-person shooters are first-person shooters. It's really about you either love the storyline or you hate the storyline. And to this point, I really like the Halo storyline. We'll see how they deal with it.
Cool. That's some stuff that I didn't know, because I gave up on Halo like after I think the 3rd installation. I was like, okay, I'm getting bored with this.
Yeah, this might make some people mad, but I actually quite like the storyline of Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2. For those who don't know, the original Halo Wars was basically started off at the conclusion of the Battle of Harvest, which is one of the first human worlds to fall for the Covenant. And it comes off the tail end of the human retaking of Harvest, which doesn't really last long if you read most of the books, but whatever. But the colony ship turned massive, big military supply ship that was supporting the Battle of Harvest basically chases a Covenant ship to a Forerunner shield world where the Covenant are trying to basically reawaken a whole bunch of Forerunner ships to go destroy humanity. You stop that while also preventing the flood from basically breaking out of the shield world, because they broke loose, because they always do. Why the hell the Forerunners decided to keep samples around is beyond me.
Mm-hmm. That is one huge plot inconsistency.
Yeah.
I was going to say. All right, go ahead.
Go on, Scott. Go ahead, 2 cents.
Okay, I was going to say, so the Forerunner, for those who may not be familiar with the plot of Halo, Basically, long before humanity, like millions of years ago, humanity in fact flourished, and then there was this big war with an alien race called the Forerunners, who were the most advanced species in the galaxies. In the galaxy, they ended up going to war with the Flood, which is this giant alien species that assimilates all sentient life in the universe and makes it part of one giant thing called a grave mind. And the Forerunners, in order to defeat them, essentially killed all sentient life in the galaxy with the Halo rings, which then starved the Flood. But for some reason, on every single Halo ring and on every Forerunner world everywhere, the Forerunners kept large amounts of flood spores for some reason that I've yet to figure out. But every Halo plot,
ostensibly, it's to study them and see if they can find a permanent cure that doesn't involve starving it to death by killing all sentient life in the galaxy. But considering that they've completely failed, like, I don't get why the Monitors hasn't gone, well, we can't cure it, so let's see if we can eradicate it completely.
Exactly, because every Halo, like the plot of every Halo game, the Covenant essentially releases Flood on whatever Halo ring they're on, or whatever Forerunner world, or whatever the case may be. The Covenant finds the Flood and releases it, and then voila, you got another Flood problem.
At least in Halo Wars, the Flood broke loose long before anybody else got there, so it's not actually the Covenant's fault this time.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, Halo Wars 2, basically what happened is because of damage sustained to like the big mothership that the humans were using, they can't properly use their faster than light drive. So they've been stuck in suspended animation with the ship basically being controlled by the AI, who has gotten old enough to risk rampancy. So she's basically self-destructed at this point and pointed the ship to what they hope is a nearby friendly human world. It actually, so they all get woken up from suspended animation when they arrive at the Ark in the aftermath of Halo 3, when the new Ring 4 over the Ark is fired to destroy the Flood there. And they're all really confused because something redirected them mid-flight. So they land on the Ark, trying to figure out what's going on, and they run headlong up against the Banished, who are this leftover Covenant faction, and of course they fight each other. So as far as I knew, Halo Infinite was basically going to come off the tail end of that, and it's you on the Ark trying to deal with the Banished.
Well, again, I didn't play Halo Wars 2, but I watched all the cutscenes on YouTube, and isn't it they actually create a new Halo ring and try to use it to like get word to the UNSC that they're still alive?
How do they create a new Halo ring? I thought the first one would take 1,000 years to create or something.
Well, the Ark is basically a gigantic manufacturing facility for the Halo rings. It's where all the Halo rings that are present in the Halo universe at the time you're playing the games. That's where they were all made. It's got like this barren moon that the Sentinels strip resources off to build new rings, right in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. And I know at the end of Halo 3, it was automatically building a replacement for the ring that Master Chief destroys in Halo 1. But then Master Chief fires that ring prematurely in order to kill all the Flood that have been following you up to that point. But then in Halo Wars 2, they find the Ark. The UNSC was there studying it, but the Banished. And do you know specifically, Pipsqueak, what the story is of the Banished? It's like the brutes, or what? Because the elites were the highest class within the Covenant, but in the Banished, the brutes are, or something.
Yeah, it sort of is a little bit separate from the story of Halo 3 and the Great Schism. But the Banished are mainly scorned and exiled soldiers from the Covenant who have rejected the prophets, but not the teachings of the Great Journey itself. And if you remember from Halo 3, the prophets are basically the head honchos of the Covenant, and they're
the brains, and the elite is the muscle.
Yeah, but they're like any leader of a dictatorial system. The prophets are basically just manipulating everybody else for their own benefit. How much they actually believe in the Great Journey themselves is basically up for question, especially if you discover all the Halo 2 terminals and get all the backstory on the heretic from that game and his conversations with Guilty Spark, 343 Guilty Spark, who basically mentioned that the Prophets were one of the races that existed before the Halo rings were fired by the Forerunners, and they are apparently just as manipulative now as they were then.
Mm-hmm.
But the Banished are basically a whole bunch of scorned and exiled soldiers that have stolen Covenant tech and waging their own little mini civil war against specifically the Prophets.
All right. And they apparently, and from the trailer, it appears they are the main bad guys for Halo 6. And it's unclear how they relate to Cortana and her take over the universe or any of that.
Hey, can I just toss, my proverbial 2 cents into the hat here?
By all means, go ahead.
Okay. No, obviously, I kind of need to get back into Halo because apparently I missed a good bit of stuff. But, for anyone who is suffering from being stuck at home thanks to certain people, I won't mention any names, government, but anyone who is looking for, something, especially if you're an RPG fan like myself, I would highly recommend Persona 5 Royal. If for no other reason than the fact that, one, it definitely deals with a lot of societal stuff, and more to the point, it's a lot of fun, and you actually get to choose your own choices. It presents you with choices throughout the entirety of the game. I've been playing the crap out of this for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. So for those who don't know about it, basically it's about a bunch of high school teenagers taking on all the corruption in the world, and it actually has a lot of for real down to earth connotations to it. You might not think so if you play through it the first time, but yeah, trust me, you'll start to piece it together, and it's a lot of fun. Also, unlike a lot of whether it's Halo, whether it's I don't know, pick your game. It uses a turn-based combat system as opposed to a real-time system, which is kind of good, kind of bad, but it is definitely interesting, and I would recommend that to anybody. That's all I had.
Interesting. I'll have to look into it. I will say, when it comes to games that let you choose, like those games where it's really open world and the choices you make affect where the game turns out. Anyone here play the Fable games?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I absolutely loved Fable as far as you get to choose whether your character is good or evil and what the outcome of the game is based on the choices that you make. That was a pretty cool gaming model.
Absolutely.
Don't Tread on Me, Carter asks, are you gay? Not sure which of us you're directing that question to, but in my case, if you've looked at my content at all, I think you should know, no, I am not.
I would say, what?
I'm about as straight as they come.
Okay.
But hey, anyone's free to ask whatever questions they want, so thank you for your questions. Yeah, Sent 1000 points out. So for those who may not be familiar with Fable, Fable is a game set in a fictional country called Albion, where you have all these quests, and essentially every quest has either a good outcome or an evil outcome. And depending on how many good outcomes versus evil outcomes you choose, your character either becomes really good or becomes really evil. And if you consistently do good quests and good outcomes, your skin gets lighter and you develop a halo. And if you do consistently evil outcomes, you start to grow horns. Like your face gets all dark and your eyes get yellow and you start to grow horns and stuff. So
Yes, I miss Fable. I really do.
and on the note of Halo, I should mention in Fable 2, there was actually a code you could enter to expand the game, and when you did, there was an outfit that became available to your character that was essentially the Master Chief's Mjolnir armor, and there was a Halo sword and a Halo rifle, all of which could be obtained in that game.
Yep, sure was.
Hooray for references.
Indeed. Crod asks, do you think America is in a political revolution? I wouldn't say so at this point. I think a bunch of very outspoken groups, some of them independent, some of them probably state-directed, are causing a lot of trouble right now. The mainstream media is capitalizing on it, but at large, no, I would not say the country is yet in political revolution.
Yeah, I would say no. It's about half a dozen cities that are being torched to the ground by a very, very small fringe minority of people that are pulling off this crap. And yeah, look how well
Also have political support.
Mm-hmm.
Whose cities are they burning down? They're all run by Democrats.
And they all have some of the strictest gun control laws in the nation.
Yeah, amazing how that works.
Agar Radio asks, who's willing to bet Biden will choose Kamala Harris as his running mate? Now, this I find interesting because for those who saw the early presidential debates, Kamala just crapped all over Biden. So some have said he has to pick. Again, some are saying that since he's basically committed to choosing a woman of color, he's got to pick her. But whatever you think about either of them, I can't possibly see how that would help him, given how hard she crapped all over him during those early debates.
Oh, I agree. It won't. Personally, this is just my proverbial 2 cents, but I would love, I would call the election that hour if he were to pick not only Kamala Harris, but maybe Stacey Abrams as his running mate officially. Oh God. It would be game over as far as I'm concerned. But hey, what do I know? What do you guys think?
I mean, honestly, I have no idea at this point. Everyone says Biden is so ahead in the polls, but then the polls can be manipulated, as we know they were in the case of Clinton versus Trump. So, I mean, do I think Trump is particularly popular right now? No, but
so the problem was that the polls were actually fairly accurate. It's just that people were paying attention to the wrong polls. America doesn't elect presidents based on popular vote. It elects presidents based on the electoral college. In fact, the polls were more accurate than they were when Obama won presidency. So if you look at the actual polls for the states that statewide polls, they were very accurate. And they all had Trump winning the electoral college. It's just nobody wanted to pay attention to that, not least Democrats, because they just consistently live in this fantasy world that America is apparently a direct democracy.
Yes, and of course, after Trump won, there was a bunch of them saying it's time to abolish the electoral college, and so many of them are. But that is a great point, Pipsqueak.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well said, Pipsqueak. You're absolutely right.
I still don't see, and obviously never underestimate the stupidity of people, but if it is indeed the case that at least 50% of the American people believe Joe Biden is in the early stages of dementia, how could he possibly win? I mean, I know that the main Democratic narrative right now is Donald Trump is the most dangerous person to ever be elected. We must stop him at all costs. Anyone could possibly do better than Donald Trump. Well, I mean, if that's the case, why not elect Mickey Mouse? He wins 2% of the vote every year anyways.
Hey, maybe I should vote for him. Actually, you know what? No. I'm going to vote for Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons.
I might throw in a vote for Yakko Warner of the Animaniacs.
Yes.
Honestly, you could do worse.
Which, on that note, I actually have been rewatching some Animaniacs recently. I take it both of you watched at least some Animaniacs.
Oh, I've watched
various clips on the internet.
Okay, because in the very first episode of Animaniacs ever, when Dr. Scratch and Sniff, the Hollywood psychiatrist who's one of the main characters in the series, is recounting his time working in Hollywood, it shows him. It shows a montage of him like listening to the complaints of various Hollywood actors. One of which is Ronald Reagan, back when he was an actor and not the president. And you have Ronald Reagan laying on the couch talking Dr. Scratch and Sniff, and he says, "My dream is to be the president of the United States." And you see Dr. Scratch and Sniff write in his notes, delusional, no help for this man.
Oh God, I remember that so clearly.
Which just goes to show, never underestimate who can possibly be elected for president of the United States.
Well, I will say they will never elect me, even if I were to run, which is not going to happen. But that's because I'm a goofy stray cat.
I don't know. What was that movie with Robin Williams where he plays a comedian who runs for president and ends up winning?
Oh, crap.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but honestly, I feel like that is exactly what would happen. A comedian who knows nothing about politics, but is just really funny throughout the debates, cracks jokes that just make people laugh hysterically. Like that kind of person probably could get elected just for sheer popularity.
If by some strange twist of fate I was to ever be elected president of the United States, I would just leave a sticky note on my chair that says, "Out to lunch, check back later."
Yes.
Indeed.
I'd probably still do better than most presidents.
Well, in fairness, isn't that basically... Yeah, maybe not, with the sticky note, but isn't that basically what Calvin Coolidge did? He was basically out to lunch anytime anyone wanted to talk to him about anything.
It's been a while since I've read about Coolidge, but quite possibly.
For want of a better way to put it, he was, by my understanding, he was definitely a do nothing. Let the states and the governors and then whatever, do what you got to do. Go ahead. I ain't doing shit. That was basically his mentality. And I think that's a good bit of reason why a lot of people don't even recognize today the name Calvin Coolidge. They don't even remember him because he didn't really do anything.
Well, we all know it's so reliable. Well, let's go ahead and read the Wikipedia entry for Calvin Coolidge.
Oh, goody.
Calvin Coolidge, born John Calvin Coolidge Jr., July 4th, 1872 to January 5th, 1933, was an American politician and lawyer who served as the 30th President of the United States from 1923 to 1929. A Republican lawyer from New England, born in Vermont, Coolidge worked his way up the ladder as Massachusetts state politics, eventually becoming governor of Massachusetts. His response to the Boston police strike of 1919 thrust him into the national spotlight and gave him a reputation as a man of decisive action. The next year, he was elected vice president of the United States, and he succeeded to the presidency upon the death of Warren G. Harding in 1923. Elected in his own right in 1924. He gained a reputation as a small government conservative and also a man who said very little and had a rather dry sense of humor.
Yeah, shit.
And Sent 1000, thank you. I believe Man of the Year was the movie I was thinking of. I also, Agora Radio, yes, I do find it hilarious that Bernie Sanders whines about Trump being a racist authoritarian, seeing as he also endorsed Biden. Something he said he was never going to do, mind you.
Sorry.
Perfectly fine. Such is technology.
So, what'd you find?
What did I find?
Yeah, seriously.
I guess you probably dropped off while I was reading it, but I read the entire Wikipedia entry for Calvin Coolidge, and it ends with him. It does say his reputation as being a small government conservative, who's a man who said very little and had a dry sense of humor.
So basically, he sat back and didn't do much. Am I correct?
Well, I guess that might be what the last line there implies. Let's see. I'll go further down in the article and see if I can find anything more. Bearing in mind that this is Wikipedia.
I'm reading the section on his presidency. Apparently, he supported a lot of government intervention when he was governor, but he opposed it when he was president because he believed that was the responsibility of the states and governors, not the federal government. So, gray. He opposed the McNary Hill Farm Relief Bill, saying that agriculture must stand, quote, on an independent business basis, and that government control cannot be divorced from political control. So, points there.
Interesting.
Now, granted, Coolidge's presidency was during the Roaring '20s, as it points out here. So he was more than willing to take credit for that. Although we all know that was the Federal Reserve's first example of economic boom by money creation, followed by severe depression.
Oh, yeah.
He did lower taxes, though.
Yes. And his successor, Herbert Hoover, of course, would go down in history with the blame for the Great Depression. Even though he did basically what FDR did later on, but that's all stuff we talked about before.
Yes.
Well, Coolidge put Herbert Hoover in the chair of Secretary of Commerce.
Foreign policy. It says Coolidge was neither well-versed nor very interested in world affairs. His focus directed mainly at American business, especially pertaining to trade and maintaining the status quo. Although not in isolation, as he was reluctant to enter into foreign alliances. While Coolidge believed strongly in a non-interventionist foreign policy, he did believe that America was exceptional.
Okay. Cool. So?
Anything else here interesting? Not really. Yeah, Herbert Hoover was made Secretary of Commerce.
He opposed the U.S. joining the League of Nations. He believed the League, as it then constituted, did not serve American interests. Well, did it end up serving anyone's interests? Really?
No, absolutely not.
No. No.
J.C. Armitage says, "Oh God, I just thought of a Biden VP pick worse than Kamala Harris or Michelle Obama, AOC."
Oh God, no, please.
You know, I feel like that would be political suicide for Biden at this point. Although I do think AOC is being groomed for that role, I just don't think it'll come for another 10 or 12 years at least.
Can
heck
we
no.
just all be honest? Can everyone just admit that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is a brain dead and half brainless barista who the Justice Democrats hired to spout nonsense because she was kind of pretty and kind of cute and had a loud mouth? Can we just all be honest about that?
Well, I've always said it's impossible to know whether she's really as dumb as she comes across. I feel like she has to be more intelligent than she comes across as. But then you never know because you can never underestimate the stupidity of people.
Well, if she's even half as smart as she tries to come across as, and when I say try, she fails miserably every time she opens her mouth, But if she's even half as smart as she pretends to be, how in the world can you spout the nonsense that she's been spouting for a couple of years now? They're like, what?
No, I happen to agree with you that as far as her being reasonably attractive, I think that's a major factor in why she was picked, because it's well known that men everywhere will capitulate to what a woman says if she's attractive, regardless of how dumb it is. However, I think it is a testament to the fact that most attractive women tend to be on the political right when AOC is the best they could have done.
I think JC Armitage is right. Her being a VP for Dementia Man, they would be torn apart.
Indeed, indeed.
Oh, I agree with you.
You would just have a smorgasbord of, here's all the stupid things Biden has said. Here's all the stupid things AOC has said. Do you really want these two people running the country? And that would be your political campaign.
Well, I mean, and obviously, with the whole the Democratic National Convention has already made clear they do not intend for Biden to debate Trump. They've used every excuse from he needs to release his tax records to coronavirus. But I think they know if there is an actual debate between Biden and Trump, Biden will get torn to shreds. He does not have the mental fortitude to be in an academic debate at all, much less one where your opponent is Donald Trump, who is going to capitalize on any dumb thing you say. So,
no, I look forward to it.
I really hope so. That will be a hilarious debate. But I think, honestly, I think there probably won't be one.
I apologize, but I'm just gonna say this now. I'm looking forward to the debates, I'm looking forward to the debates. They're gonna be great. Bring some popcorn. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. 2 cents. You're absolutely right. Yeah, if there actually is an honest to goodness debate between Joe Biden and Trump, bring some popcorn, because this is going to be a show. It's going to be hilarious. I'm just saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Forgive my little jingle there. I apologize.
Never apologize. And especially in today's day and age, never apologize.
Sure.
All right, so we're down to the last 2.5 minutes here. If anybody's got any last minute things to say, now's the time to put them in the chat.
It's actually, someone did say earlier there have been a bunch of people on Twitter going around and saying Anakin Skywalker from the Star Wars series is apparently a Mary Sue. And what I will say on that is I will direct you to a YouTuber by the name of Critical Drinker. Play on words of Critical Thinker, of course. But he did an excellent video on exactly why that's dumb, and I would just point you to that. Just basically agree with everything he said in that video, and it's also hilarious, and you should go watch it.
All right, by all means, check that out. A quick Google search reveals that Quora has a very active thread that says, is Anakin Skywalker a Mary Sue or not? 6 answers, the first of which has 607,900 likes.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, very, very clearly there are a lot of people who are invested in this question.
Okay.
JC Armitage asked, do you think that the CCP virus will lower voter turnout even more than expected?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it at this point. I think more people are catching on and going about that the virus isn't really anything, and they're going about their lives. I mean, you might have the crazy soccer moms who don't vote because they're afraid of catching coronavirus, but I think those are few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah, the Karens might not want to bitch about it, but at the end of the day, yeah, no. I doubt it. What did I say?
Oh, nothing. Well, and on that note, we have reached the top of the hour. So thank everybody for coming to Hangout. This has been an interesting discussion, everything from Joe Biden's VP picks to the plot of Halo Infinite and beyond. And again, Pipsqueak, Mikhail, the Stray Cat, thank you so much for your continued support of my channel and for all those who continue to support. If you'd like to get in on this discussion, I do have the links to Patreon, Subscribestar, and Bitbacker in the description of this live stream. And as always, that is my 2 cents, so take it for what it's worth.
Thanks for having me.